You wake up already owing money. Not metaphorically, literally. Before you eat breakfast, before you check your phone, before you step outside, debt is already working in the background of your life. Paid for the road outside your house. Paid for the phone in your hand. It paid for the electricity, the internet, the buildings, the institutions, the promises holding everything together. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Debt is no longer a problem in our world. It's a habit, a norm, culture, and most people don't even notice when it happened. This matters now because debt has quietly crossed a line. It's no longer something we use in emergencies. It's something we use to function. Governments rely on it. Corporations depend on it. Families plan their lives around it. Entire generations are expected to carry it as part of adulthood. And once debt becomes cultural, it stops feeling dangerous. It starts feeling normal. Let's rewind. For most of human history, debt was personal and shameful. You owed your neighbor grain. You owed a merchant silver. If you couldn't repay, there were consequences. Visible ones, social ones, sometimes brutal ones. Debt had weight. But something changed when debt stopped being tied to people and started being tied to systems. The modern debt story really accelerates in the 20th century, especially after major wars. Wars are expensive. Nations couldn't pay for them up front, so they borrowed massive amounts. And something surprising happened. The world didn't collapse. Countries carried huge debts. And life went on. Economies grew. Technology advanced. Living standards rose. That was the first psychological shift. Debt stopped looking like failure. Debt started looking like a tool. Then came the second shift. Banks and financial systems figured out something simple and powerful. If debt is spread out, abstracted, and long-term, people stop fearing it. Instead of owing one person, you owe a system. Instead of paying tomorrow, you pay over decades. Instead of feeling pain now, you feel small discomfort later. Monthly payments, minimum dues, interest so small it feels invisible. Debt stopped being loud. It became quiet. And quiet systems are the most dangerous ones. Now zoom in on households. At some point, buying a house outright became unrealistic. So mortgages became normal. Then cars. Then education. Then healthcare. Then basic consumption. Debt wasn't just for big emergencies anymore. It became the default path. Want a degree? Debt. Want mobility? Debt. Want stability? Debt. Want to keep up? Debt. And society reinforced it. If you didn't take debt, you were seen as falling behind. Not ambitious. Not investing in yourself. Not building credit. That phrase alone is revealing. Building credit doesn't mean building savings. It means building the ability to borrow more. That's cultural normalization in action. Now let's talk about the math no one likes to confront. Debt grows faster than income. Almost always. Interest compounds quietly. Wages don't. Even when interest rates are low, they never go to zero for most people. But economic growth, job security, and income stability absolutely do. This creates a permanent gap. A gap that can only be filled by more debt. That's not an accident. That's how the system stabilizes itself. When economies slow down, debt fills the hole. When consumption drops, debt props it up. When growth weakens, borrowing buys time. Debt becomes the shock absorber of society. But shock absorbers wear out. Here's the irony. Debt culture sells the idea of freedom. Buy now, enjoy now, pay later. Leverage your future to improve your present. But the reality is inverted. The more debt you carry, the fewer choices you have. Your future income is already spoken for. Your risk tolerance shrinks. Your ability to say no disappears. Debt doesn't remove pressure, postpones it, and magnifies it. Now zoom out again. Governments are doing the same thing, just with more zeros. Public debt numbers are so large now they've lost meaning. Trillions don't feel real. Deficits don't feel urgent. Interest payments are discussed like weather. And that's intentional. When numbers become too big to visualize, accountability fades. But here's the uncomfortable mechanism underneath. Governments roll over debt instead of repaying it. Old debt is paid with new debt. Interest is serviced, not eliminated. As long as growth exists and confidence remains, the system survives. Debt becomes permanent, not a balance to clear, but a condition to manage. And once permanence is accepted, culture adapts. Citizens stop expecting debt to go down. Politicians stop promising to eliminate it. Central banks stop treating it as temporary. Debt becomes background noise, like oxygen, invisible until it's gone. Now add one more layer: psychology. Humans are terrible at understanding long-term consequences. We discount the future. We overvalue the present. Behavioral economists have proven this repeatedly. Debt exploits that flaw perfectly. Small payments feel harmless. Long timelines feel distant. Risk feels theoretical, until it isn't. And because everyone around you is doing it, it feels safe. That's the most powerful part. Debt becomes cultural when opting out feels abnormal. When living debt-free seems unrealistic, naive, or even irresponsible. When saying, "I'll wait," feels like falling behind. At that point, debt is no longer a financial decision. It's a social one, and culture defends itself. Media normalizes it. Advertising glorifies it. Financial language softens it. We don't say owing. We say financing. We don't say interest burden. We say affordable monthly payments. Words matter. They reshape perception. Now let's confront the risk. A debt-based culture is stable until it isn't. It relies on three fragile assumptions: that growth continues, that interest stays manageable, that confidence doesn't break. If even one of those cracks, pressure concentrates fast. History shows this clearly. Debt crises don't build slowly. They snap suddenly, because leverage amplifies everything. Small shocks become big ones. Minor downturns become systemic stress. Loss of confidence spreads faster than facts. And when debt is everywhere, failure is never isolated. That's why modern crises feel global, financially synchronized, emotionally contagious. Here's the quiet danger. When debt is cultural, warning signs are ignored. Rising balances are normalized. Refinancing replaces repayment. Structural problems are patched with liquidity. Until one day, debt stops being a background tool and becomes the headline. By then, choices are limited. This isn't a moral argument against borrowing. Debt itself isn't evil. It never was. The question is something deeper. What happens when an entire civilization depends on borrowing from its own future just to feel normal today? What happens when responsibility is postponed across generations? What happens when the cost of stability is permanent obligation? We've built a system where debt is the answer to almost every problem. That's efficient. It's also fragile. And here's the unresolved question worth sitting with. If debt is no longer something we plan to repay, only something we manage, then what exactly are we promising the future? And at what point does normal stop being sustainable?